Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Please join me in welcoming our speaker, Karen.
Hi everybody, I'm Karen Garrison. I'm an alcoholic. And it's truly through the grace of God and the power of Alcoholics Anonymous that I've been sober since May 30th, 1982, and that does not make me a miracle. Alcoholics Anonymous is a miracle. And if you're new here today, I want to welcome you to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I always call it God's magnificent AA, the program that saved my life, and it's going to save yours too, if you want to take a few quick actions. And I suggest trying to get a sponsor, that you get our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and get busy. Do everybody else is doing around here. You know, stay sober. So I've stayed sober for 28 years, and people like me cannot stay sober, I can guarantee you. My home group is the Pacific Group in West LA, a group I'm very, very proud of. A group that I'm very, very proud to be a member, just as I'm sure you're proud to be a member of yours. And no, now you can't hear it at all? Can you hear me now? No. Can you hear me now? Anyway, my home group is the Pacific Group in West LA, and very proud to be in the Pacific Group. And if you're new here tonight, get a home group this afternoon. Get a home group and get a sponsor and get busy as everybody else is doing. I'm going to tell you, you're going to on for the ride of your life, let me tell you. But I want to thank Mac for inviting me. This is an honor and a privilege. It's one that I do not take lightly, I'll guarantee you. You guys, I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I really do. And I think that it shows, make an awful lot of mistakes, doing an awful lot of things wrong. But I'll tell you one thing, that I love you. Make no mistake about that. You know, I've been taught to do an awful lot of things before I ever wrote my big mouth. And one thing is to talk to my sponsor. And Clancy sends you his love and very best wishes. And if anybody in this room is wondering why I have a man for a sponsor, why I have Clancy for a sponsor, it's really quite simple. I did not get sober in California. Got sober in a place called Lincoln, Nebraska. Was not doing well with Alcoholics Anonymous in Nebraska. I went through 19 sponsors at a rapid clip. And I'm certainly not proud of this. I stand here today. And thank God for the old timers today, because somebody loved me enough to get my current sponsor. I tell you that my life has done nothing but totally, completely turn out with all that. I obviously adore the ground that man walks. I talked to him before he left town Friday, and he said, well, get up there and share your experience, your strength, and your hope, and tell those people what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. Ignore the old timers. They got it. They don't need your inspiration, my dear. And talk directly to those new people, life and blood of A. And I believe that I stand here and I welcome you and I hope that you stay. And then I think I did, without a doubt, the most important thing I can ever do. And that's to say, God, please help me say what you want me to say to these people. God is very much a part of my life now, you guys. Now, you know, I can guarantee you. I come from an alcoholic hell. I could not even describe it. It was so bad.
You just get closer to the microphone so that people, just if you get a little bit closer. Thank you.
The volume will not go up. It's all the way up. All the way up. I just did.
Anyway, I think the most important thing I can ever do is to say, God, please help me say what you want me to say to these people. God is very much a part of my life to you guys. Now, you speak that with me, I can guarantee you. I come from an alcoholic hell. I cannot even describe it. It was so bad. And, you know, my life is real good, and sometimes I forget how bad it was. And I can tell you the day I got sober, I weighed 95 pounds. I was the color of squash. Had an alcoholic hepatitis. Had a liver cirrhosis. I had ruptured esophageal varices. And if you don't know what that stuff is, you don't want it, because you die from that kind of stuff. And I was standing on Skid Row in Lincoln, Nebraska, sucking on a bottle of Mad Dog. And if you guys haven't drank Mad Dog, I can tell you it's not one of your finer wines, I can assure you. I'll guarantee you one thing, that crap has never seen a grape, make no mistake about that. And, you know, I remember thinking to myself, I used to drink martinis all the time. What am I doing drinking Cisco and Mad Dog and Night Train and that kind of stuff? But I'll tell you one thing, folks, it does the trick. It stops the shakes. I will tell you right now, but what a bunch of garbage that stuff was. But anyway, you know, I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska. I come from a wonderful home in Nebraska, and I want you to know that. My mother wanted you to know it, too. You know, if my mom ever heard me speak, she'd be mortified, let me tell you guys. But my mom died about 15 years ago. But, you know, I lost a nursing license. I lost my kids, my family, my house, my car. It was over, and I was dying. And then that one thing that brought me to my knees, I lost my nursing license. And I'll tell you, it absolutely devastated me. It did not stop me from drinking. And there's a reason for that, and it's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I have an obsession that somehow, someday, I'm going to control and enjoy my drinking. The persistent illusion is astonishing. The book talks about Meaner's pursuit and gates of insanity and death. And I'll guarantee you one thing. I was in the gates of pure insanity. I got something almost to my coffin. And I am so grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous as I stand here tonight. Today, I can't begin to tell you. And you're going to soon see why and stuff. But, you know, like I said earlier, my sobriety date is May 30th, 1982. It was not always my sobriety date. I got my current sponsor. I had to change that date. And there's a reason for that. All these people had to go smoke dope when I got sober. And, you know, if you're smoking marijuana in this room, you're not sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'll tell you right this minute. Argue about it afterwards. I don't want to argue about it afterwards, asking you old timers if you don't believe me. If I could change my date, then by God, so do you. But I got my current sponsor, and I tried to explain to him, where I'm from in Lincoln, you have two sobrieties, one from alcohol, one from drugs. He rather quickly pointed out to me that I was in Southern California. We have one date here to get my date changed. And I was just smart aleck when I got my current sponsor. And I said, where does the book mention pot? He said, the book does mention pot. And I said, Clancy, I have read that book, talk about marijuana book. He said, if I found there were pot in that book, you change that date or argue with me again. And I agreed to do it. I couldn't believe it, but I agreed to do it. And I'll be damned if he didn't slip up in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. On the first page of Bill Wilson's story, it says, died by muscular or by pot. I said, that is not what that means. You said, quite frankly, my dear, I don't care what it means. You said the book didn't mention pot. It does mention pot. Change your date or find yourself a different sponsor. I'm not going to argue with you about it. And I did, and I'm so glad I did. I understand that now, but I didn't understand it then. But, you know, I grew up in a wonderful home there in Nebraska. And like I said, my mother died 15 years ago. I'll tell you guys a funny story. I was back in Nebraska a couple of summers ago to visit my kids and my grandkids and stuff, and I told my eldest son, I've got to Grandma's grave and put some flowers down. Where's your other grandmother buried? I wasn't there for my ex-mother-in-law's funeral. He said, well, Mom, just mark off 15 rows from Grandma's grave. There's Grandma Lynn's grave. So little tiny graveyard. It's overcast in Nebraska. Been raining all day. I told him I'd speak at the Lawn Club at 5:30. It was already 10 o'clock, so I really need to move right on here. So I put the flowers down my mom's grave. I marked off 15 rows. There's my ex-mother-in-law's grave. I put the flowers down, and I backed up, and I found myself in an 8-foot grave, you guys. And I couldn't get out of that damn thing. Let me tell you something, folks. When you're in it, you're not getting out of it. I thought, how this happening? Well, apparently the grave diggers in Nebraska on the grave the day before, they put a tarp up and a caution sign, thing to hold the casket. It's basically impossible to fall on a grave. And they thought, well, let's go to dinner, we'll come back and do it later. Nobody's going to come out here. It's been raining all day. And I come walking over, and I thought, how am I going to get out of this grave? I don't wish to explain to my sponsor how I missed the 5:30 meeting while I was standing in an 8-foot grave. But what do? You start screaming, help is what you're doing. About 10 minutes later, this old lady walked over the grave. She's old, but I'm not, right? And she says to me, I don't think you're supposed to be in there. And I thought, stupid woman. I didn't say that, though. And I said, you got a phone? She says, you know, I don't. My God, this water's exploded. It's right, I got it. I just make messes wherever I go, I'm telling you. I got it, honey, thank you. Anyway, I come from an alcoholic home, and I don't think that's neither here nor there. I don't do well with people stand at AA podiums and blame anybody for anything. And my father died from this disease on the streets of Chicago in 1979. And you tell me how Major in the Air Force dies on Skid Row. I don't know how that happened, other than the fact that he was an alcoholic. And whether they were found AA or not, I don't know. I just know that he's certainly not stay sober as well as us. So one more time today, this is a cunning, baffling, powerful disease that kills people. This is not a game I'm playing for. This is serious business. And I would give anything more if my father were alive today, because we would have a lot to talk about, I can tell you. I have a sister who is Miss Rah-Rah in high school and homecoming queen and cheerleading and all that kind of stuff, and made straight A's, never cracked a book, and I made straight F's, never cracked a book, and that was the difference. My sister was a beautiful little girl. She's a gorgeous woman today. She looks nothing like I do, I gotta tell you. She was a model for many years for Neiman Marcus in Dallas, and now she's retired and teaches school in the West Indies. And I gotta tell you guys, as a direct result of Alcoholics Anonymous, I love her very much today. And I found out something about her. She's also beautiful on the inside, too, and I never used to know that. I have a brother who was a fighter pilot in the Navy for many years. My brother retired about 11 years ago and did 9/11 in Iraq and so forth. He's been called back in the service. And, you know, my brother is really old to be a fighter pilot. You guys, he's 59 years old. And we were growing up, I thought he was such a dork, I can't begin to tell you. Straight as an arrow Mike, doesn't drink, doesn't use drugs, doesn't screw around. He was embarrassed to know the truth. But today, I'm so proud of that man, I cannot begin to tell you. You wouldn't catch me over Iraq in any fighter plane, but neither one of these people are alcoholic. And I have another sister who was married to the public defender in Lincoln, Nebraska, who got me out of a whole bunch of trouble when I got sober, and I'm welcome in their homes. They never used to be. I come from basically a very boring family, the truth. They're high successful people, and they bore me to tears. I love them, but they bore me to tears. And I have a couple of kids who are 48 and 49 years old, and I know I'm certainly old enough to have kids' age, but by God, I sure do. And this is where it really starts getting interesting for me. These kids are anything but boring, I got to tell you guys. As a matter of fact, they're a couple of jerks, to know the truth, but those couple... those couple of jerks give me 5 of the most beautiful grandbabies you've ever seen before in your life. And those grandbabies have never seen their grandmother drink, and I hope to God they never do. So things my family are very good today is only a direct result of Alcoholics Anonymous, I can assure you, and it took a long time for it to happen. In my case, that's a good thing. But, you know, I was a disruptive jerk when I was growing up, always in trouble to get out of classrooms. I hated discipline. I was very, very rebellious. I literally hated people telling me what to do. And I like it even less today, if you know the truth. And, you know, I never felt like I belonged anywhere. And I heard that a lot from AA podiums, and I'm right on with that 125%, I got to tell you. You know, I really don't remember my first drink, you guys. But I can tell you that I hope to God I never forget my last one. And I hope it was my last one. What alcohol did for me from the very beginning. I could be anything I wanted to be. I could do anything I wanted to do. I drank any given opportunity after that, and I was probably about 13 years old. You know, I realize that I'm going to meet with Alcoholics Anonymous this afternoon, and I honor this podium by talking about alcoholism up here. I used a lot of drugs to make that a small part of my story. My sponsor encourages me to do that. You know, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and Bill Wilson and Bob Smith's stories, both our co-founders, they talk about and the powerful influence of alcohol and sedation. They both wound up on the rocks. That's precisely what happened to me, folks. But, you know, I'm one of these alcoholic females, and I hate to say this from an AA podium, but it's precisely the way that it was for me, and we're supposed to tell the truth up here. That if you pat me on the head, my pants fall, that was me. And I got myself into a lot of trouble when I was growing up. I absolutely love men. I love everything about them. You name about them, and I love them. They've been the downfall of my entire existence, and they remain the same today, I'm sorry to say. And I particularly like sick men. There's a room full of them here today. I can just feel it, you know. That's one thing I love about Southern California. It's got so many sick men, and I'm just entertained around the clock 24 hours a day. Anyway, I got pregnant when I was 16 years old, and I had to get married. In my day, girls, there was no ifs, ands, and buts. That's just what we did and stuff. As it must be, I married an alcoholic. He was 17, I was 16. I couldn't cook, I couldn't clean, I couldn't take care of a baby, nor did I want to take care of a baby. And before we knew it, we had 2 babies to take care of. And I quickly found out what caused all that, and I put a halt to it, I'll guarantee you that. And that caused me a lot of trouble throughout the years. And as it must be, I married an individual that refused to work, that drank on a daily basis, come home and beat me up on a daily basis. And I had never seen a man hit a woman before in my life, you guys. I'll guarantee you one thing. If my dad would lay one hand on my mom, she'd have knocked him from here to the moon, I gotta tell you. And I grew to hate this guy very, very much, and I'm not blaming him for my disease, so please don't get me wrong. It's just part of my story, I need to share it. And some of that family had to get a job, and I didn't finish junior high yet, for God's sakes. And I found a job as a nurse's aide in a hospital there in Lincoln, and the magic was put in my life. I literally fell in love with nursing. And I made a plan to myself. I would love to go to school. I'd love to become a registered nurse. That's what I'd love to do. You know, they say that alcoholics don't have willpower. And I'm here to tell you from this podium today, that is a bunch of garbage. I have more willpower than 20 elephants. When I want to do well, I'm going to do well. I don't have 1 ounce of willpower because of my disease. But by God, when I want to do something, I'm going to do it. I went back, I finished junior high, I finished high school, I went to college full-time for 3 years, and I worked full-time for 3 years. And I'm talking about 18, 20 hours a day, you guys, and that is a hard stuff to do. I did not drink, not use any drugs during this period of time. At the age of 27 years old, I became a registered nurse. And if you think I'm proud to stand here today and tell you that I got jerked in front of the State Board of Nursing in Nebraska, and they told me, you are a disgrace to your profession, you're a disgrace to nursing, you're a disgrace to medicine, you are no longer working because we just jerked your nursing license. If you think I'm proud of that, you are sadly wrong. You guys, I love my profession, and I really, really mean that. And I would never do anything to jeopardize the people I take care of, the people I work with in ordinary circumstances. And what I have to tell you today is a story about how I threw it right down the toilet so I could drink. And that is total insanity. It's also called alcoholism. At the age of 27 years old, I divorced this man. And girls, I got to tell you that a whole new world opened up to me, and it's called men and alcohol. And I went absolutely hog wild is what I did. I was engaged 8 times during that divorce. I never did marry these people. 2 of them died from alcoholism. I know nothing about social drinking. I drank, and with alcoholics, and we do indeed die from this. And at the age of 27, I went to work in surgery at a hospital there in Lincoln, and I had that job for 19 years. I love working in the operating room. I love taking care of those patients. It's a colorful, exciting nursing position. I drank, with medical people mostly. They were colorful, intense people. They worked hard, and they played hard. And I need to tell you guys that the incidence of alcoholism amongst my profession is tremendously high. And that I do a lot. You're going to have surgery next week, but it has to be very, very true. And those people are so grateful I'm sober that they can't see straight. And I'm talking about alcoholics is what I'm talking about. You know, in our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, says clearly that we're telling the general way what our drinking was like. And you're going to get the general idea real quick what my drinking was like. I can tell you guys about my drinking in about 5 seconds if I know the truth. Many, many years ago, I was at a little concert in upstate New York called Woodstock. And I'm not talking about that piece of crap they had 10 years ago. I'm talking about the real Woodstock. And there will never be another one, trust me on that. The kids from the 60s threw a party that nobody will ever match, I'm quite sure. In New York, when they're going to have this big event, they told these people, if you don't get medical coverage, you're not going to have this concept of hiring people from Nebraska. They'll be more responsible. And we were a seedy lot, I can assure you. And I was first drunk as I was still. My 9 girls I worked with to join me met about 80 doctors from North area Woodstock. I never seen so much alcohol in place in my entire life. You could have floated back no problem whatsoever. And the drugs, it was like a candy store. And we were sharing our drugs with everybody else. But we had this great big semi-truck on that back lot of Woodstock. There was our hospital park back there. And I don't recall being in that semi the entire week. But I do recall it was like time for the stage night that Richie Haven sang Freedom, and Joe Cocker and Country Joe sang some of the scripts that I love. I come from the roaring 60s, you guys, and I love rock and roll. And things are not changing my life in a little tiny bit. I loved Elvis Presley, and Janis Joplin was my lady, let me tell you. Wouldn't Janis Joplin find me back like Simon, you guys? I'd have hung out with Janis, let me tell you. I'd trade Janis for Clancy any day, if you know the truth, but that's not true. That's a big fat lie. Do not tell him I said that, please. I was just kidding. I wouldn't trade my sponsor for 20 Janis Joplins, but drinking for me at one time was a fun thing. It'd be a lie standing to say that today, but I can't remember the fun. I remember the pain that it caused me. One more time, I am so grateful I can't begin to tell you, but you know, the drunk driving charges, the bad checks, all the stuff that we eventually do. My kids were in trouble. I never could marry these guys I was engaged to. They kept dying from alcoholism. I thought, you know, I need to get married to my ex-husband again. That's what I need to do. The kids need their father. So even with him for all the things he's done to me. And those are not very good reasons to get married again, I can tell you. I'm certainly not proud as I stand here today. And, you know, if anybody in this room is thinking about getting married to the same person twice, don't do it. You're going to be sorry. The only way I can describe it, it's like taking a bite out of the same turd twice. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. And I danced that man through 3 of the most miserable years of his life on the face of this earth. And I love to tell you guys this story, I tell you. My sponsor always tells me that is not funny, and you should not be telling that from AA podiums. I said, okay, fine, I won't tell anymore. He said, no, go ahead. This is people see how sick you really were, and apparently how sick you really still are. And I'm still sick, and I still think it's funny, and I'm telling the story. When I married him again, I told him, I said, if you ever hit me again, buddy, I will kill you next time you hit me. And he said, I'll never hit you again ever. I said, you better see that you don't. He lied is what he did. Came home drunk one night, and I happened to be sober this night for some reason, and I'll never know why, because I usually wasn't. And girls, you know what guys do when they come home drunk, they want to take you to bed and stuff. I was not buying it. If there's anything I can't stand, it's some drunk man mauling me when I'm sober. I will say with the shoes on their foot, though, it's fine with me. And that guy came and indicated that to me, and I said, you get your hands off me and leave me alone. I wanted nothing to do with him, period. And he broke my arm is what he did. And I'm here to tell you guys that I was pissed. As a matter of fact, I'm still pissed about it, you know, the truth. And I told him, I said, you go to sleep on that couch, and so help me God, when you wake up, you're going to wish you'd never been born. And he sat up for hours, you guys, eyes pried open. As it must be, he finally passed out. And I started drinking martinis, and this is a classic example of what alcohol did for me. Alcohol told me what to do. I didn't tell it what to do. And I had about 8, 10 martinis, and I was feeling no pain, I can assure you. And I was sitting there watching this guy. And I hate to tell you what this man was doing, but I can't tell you the strength to tell you what he was doing. He was laying on the couch playing with himself. I thought, you disgusting man, you make me sick to my stomach. And the more I drank, the madder I got. You guys, you know, I'm a nurse, and I'm very familiar with male anatomy. And I'd be very familiar with male anatomy if I wasn't a nurse. But you know, I thought to myself, what can I do to get even this guy for all the things he's done to me? And I came up with this brilliant idea in my drunken stupor. That's one thing we should never do, folks, is drink and think at the same time. And this was many, many years ago, you guys, when super glue first came out. And super glue was, you know, Mrs. Bobbitt has nothing on me, I can assure you. But super glue is really, really strong. You didn't want to screw around with it and stuff. But I got that glue out, and I read the directions on that glue. And like I said, I was drunk, and I wasn't seeing very clearly. And what I thought those directions said were, if this hits human skin, you'd be lawful in 15 hours. Now, why would it say something stupid like that? What it said was, in fact, if this hits human skin, you'd be lawful in 5 minutes. And I went to this guy. I get so excited when I tell this story, I can just go do it all over again. Right? Went over this guy, and I poured super glue all over this guy's groin, and I mean everywhere. There's not one place man to have super glue, and I laughed about it, and I went to bed. And I woke up in the morning to screams of horror, like you cannot even believe. You know, I did not mean to hurt this guy as bad as I did, and I swear to God that's true. But I'll tell you what happened to my ex-husband. This guy never had the advantage of being circumcised when he was born, and now he clearly was, I can assure you. And we had a telephone by our bed there in Lincoln. He called the police, and the cops were out in front of our home with their sirens going. There was an ambulance out there. The neighbors were gawking out of their windows. And, you know, one thing you guys got to keep in mind here, they did not see things like this happen in Lincoln, Nebraska. In California, it wouldn't surprise me one bit, but certainly not there. And the cops were laughing, which believe me, the whole thing was funny. And they said, lady, are you crazy or what? Why would you do something like this? I said, what makes you think that I did it anyway? I was only standing there with glue on my hands, for God's sake. And they said, you're under arrest for assault and battery. And I said, you can't arrest wives in Nebraska for assault and battery against their husbands. I knew better than that. And 2 days later, when I got out of jail, I guess I didn't know better than that. And they took that man to the very hospital I worked at in surgery, and he had to have surgery. One more time, the host staff saw what Karen did. And they took me to jail, I might add. It turned out to be a terrible thing. Those doctors there in Lincoln couldn't get that glue off. And they get 2 surgeons down from Creighton University Medical School in Omaha, Nebraska, to get that glue off. And there's a paper about that at Creighton. If you're going to go medical here, you can read about it if you want to. I'd always wind up papering about it, but not like this, I got to tell you. And I was sitting in that jail thinking to myself, I am getting out of this marriage. When this guy comes home from the hospital, he's going to glue something to mine shut. And he would have, too, I got to tell you. I'm sorry, but he would. For those of you who don't know this, that happened to a lady in Kentucky about 7 years ago. It was on the national news, and I thought, my God, better her than me, I got to tell you. But, we have an immense step in this program, and my sponsor would get on an airplane and fly to Sacramento, California, and they convinced my ex-husband. I tried to explain to my sponsor, I'm not sorry that I did that, therefore I don't have to make the amends. He said, I don't care whether you're sorry or not. Get in that plane, get there, and do what I'm asking you to do. Maybe one of these days you will be sorry. I'll tell anybody in this room tonight, when that guy sees me, he kind of backs up, let me tell you, but we're able to sit down and talk and stuff. I made my amends to him. And I will tell you guys, I walked away from that man. I was free of what I had done to him. I was free of being married to him twice. And I will tell you, for the first time in my sobriety, the promises in our book came true in my life. And you ask about that? Motives mean nothing here, folks. My motives suck big time on that one. I still got the promises, so go figure. It's action that counts around here, not motives and stuff. But, I divorced this guy one more time, and I got involved in the most bizarre man I've met before in my life. This guy told me he was in the mafia. Now, I don't think anybody in Nebraska is in the mafia, for God's sakes. And I was lying to him, and he was lying to me. Typical alcoholic nightmare is what it was. I was drinking on a daily basis. I was taking Valium for severe tremors I was starting to have. It's beginning to be no more fun, I got to tell you guys. I'm a nurse, and I've studied alcoholism. I knew all that before I became one. It shows me one more time tonight what our book says is so true. Self-knowledge avails us nothing to this disease. It's action that counts. Nowhere in our book do we have a chapter called Into Thinking. When it's called Into Action. And that's the only reason I'm standing here at 28 years sober. And the day came to the hospital, and they said, you know what, Karen, come out to the front. We want to talk to you. And you know how you get that feeling when you know you're in trouble? You know you're in big trouble. And I went out there, and they said, sit down. They said, you know what, we're tired about you in the paper. Drunk driving charges, bad checks, gluing husbands, all the crap that you're doing. Everything you do in Nebraska is in the paper, I'm sorry to say. And they said, you have a drinking problem, you're going to treatment, or you are out of here. We cannot read about our nursing staff in the paper anymore. You have won awards for your nursing ability. What is the matter with you? And they said, we want you to go to a treatment center. We're going to pay for it, pay for your time off. Do this for yourself. Do not make the mistake of walking out of here because you are not coming back. And I stood there and made the biggest mistake I've ever made before in my life. I said, you and what army is going to make me go to a treatment center? And I walked out of a job that I love more than anything in the whole world, and I cannot say it enough today. And I drank and I drank and I died 1,000 times over. I went to work at a nursing home there in Lincoln. I'm ready to tell you guys something I'm not proud to discuss from any AA podium. It took me years of my sobriety before I would ever mention this. I found myself still in drugs in that nursing home. I was still in morphine and Demerol and cocaine and I didn't get my hands on it. And the reason I was doing that, I don't like drugs that much, to tell you the truth, you guys. I love alcohol, but I couldn't drink at work, so I started still on drugs. It's just that damn simple. I was going through terrible withdrawal every day, and I had to have that stuff, and I could not seem to stop doing that. And the day came, and the people that ran that place came to me and they said, Karen, what is the matter with you? You are just weird is what you are. You take good care of the patients, you're a great nurse, but you're just strange. And I remember thinking to myself, you'd be strange, too, if you had 200 milligrams of Demerol on board. You'd be strange, I threw my keys at them, and I walked out the door before they fired me. And I went to work at Bryan Memorial Hospital there in Lincoln. And you guys, it's a fine, fine facility. And I was drunk on that year by that nursing physician. And I'm not talking about falling down drunk. I was just maintaining a certain level of alcohol in my bloodstream that I would not shake and have those violent tremors. That is clearly desperation drinking. Our book describes it vividly. And I was in hot water for my union, let me tell you. I had to drink, I just did drugs, and I had no more choice than of it. And I will tell you guys right up front here today, the very thought that I'm drinking makes the hair on my neck stand straight up. And that's why I'm active in Alcoholics Anonymous stuff. But the day came in, I got caught red-handed stealing some morphine from that hospital, and this got to be without a doubt the most humiliating day of my entire life. They said, you give us your narcotic keys and you get out of this hospital. Don't you ever walk back in here again. We're reporting this to the State Board of Nursing in Nebraska. That's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they should have done. My other job should have done too, as a matter of fact. And long story short here today, I lost my nursing license. And to make a long story short and terminate here today, I went up on the streets of Nebraska is what happened to me. And you guys, I spent 2 years on the streets. And I've traveled the Midwest, I prostituted myself, and I'll guarantee you one thing, that I have seen and done things that no woman should ever see or doing.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
I'm still so sick in the head sometimes, I think to myself, I wouldn't mind seeing some of them again, And my sponsor assures me I'm still a very ill member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been in nut houses, I've been in detoxes, I've been in jails, I've been in institutions. I can't think of a thing that happened in the streets as a depressed female alcoholic. So, things happened to me I would not repeat from this podium today, but I'm sure you got the general idea. And 2 years rolled by for me, and there I was back there in Lincoln, standing on Skid Row, sucking a bottle of Mad Dog. And I certainly have better things in tender for myself to be doing that. You know, I hope to God I never forget that last time I drank a bit. I remember thinking to myself, there was a Hilton Hotel adjacent to the Skid Row area. I remember thinking 2 years ago, stand on top of the Hilton Hotel and drink martinis with surgeons. What am I doing standing on Skid Row drinking these people? I imagine those folks felt the same way when they arrived there. Like I said, I can't tell you much about it at all. I woke up in an intensive care ward, the very hospital I was born at, the very hospital I worked at for 19 years, and I will tell you guys clearly that the alcoholic hell from me started the day I got sober. You know, I'm not a very big person. I only weighed 95 pounds when I got sober, and I was coming off a quart of whatever day and 200 milligrams of Valium a day. That is a lot of booze, it's a lot of pills, and I had a lot of dying to do. You know, they say that most alcohol withdrawal is over in 3 days, and perhaps it is for some people. It certainly was not for me. It's going to be a long time before I start feeling better. I lived in that intensive care ward. I had tubes come out of my belly. They were draining fluid off my liver. I had IVs going, and I found myself in withdrawal that was so bad I cannot begin to tell you guys. And I lived in that intensive care ward, and I shook, and I shook, and I died for 30 solid days. And I screamed at those nurses, demand they give me drugs for this withdrawal. They did not give me drug one. They said, Karen, there's nothing wrong with your heart. You know, if we gave you a drug, we would kill you in the bed. Your body can't take it anymore. No drugs. Feel the tremors, maybe you'll never do it again. And I did not want to hear that, let me tell you guys, but let me tell you what these people did for me, and I'll be forever grateful as long as I'm sober now, Alcoholics Anonymous. They got 10 members of AA to come and sit with me. And these people never left me day or night for 30 solid days. And, you know, I just want to say this very quickly because I feel so strongly about this because it saved my life. Once I'm on AA, I hear people say, not very many people, I don't hear that often, I hear one of the throttle them by the neck. They say things like, we don't go unless the alcoholic calls us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm standing here 28 years sober. I never made any damn phone call. Where'd that crap come from? It's good enough for our co-founders, by God, it's good enough for us. I think Bill found Bob, as the story goes. I don't think Bob found Bill. I'm going to forget where I'm coming from around here. My responsibility statement does indeed say, when anyone anywhere reaches out for help, we want the hand of AA always to be there. And for that, I'm responsible. The nurses reached out. The alcoholics responded. That's as a direct result. I'm standing here 28 years old. But I just fell in love with these people, and I'll tell you why. You know, I don't know how many people in this room have done street time, but it is not a pretty picture out there, folks, let me tell you. I was so lonely. I hated myself so bad, so full of remorse and despair, I can't begin to tell you. And for the first time in a long time, people were talking to me again. You know, my family wanted nothing to do with me for a long, long time. And so I just fell in love with these people. Fell in love with these people. And they said things like, Karen, just keep breathing. All you do is breathe. And I'd say, when is this withdrawal going to stop? And they said, when it's time, that's when it's going to stop. And that wasn't good enough for me. I wanted a date is what I wanted. And they were absolutely accurate about that when it's time, it's time. At 30 days of sobriety, I walked into that district treatment for that hospital. I'm a product of a treatment center. I had no opinion one way or the other. But apparently I went to a fine because all they talked about was Alcoholics Anonymous. And you know, I was in an inpatient 30-day program for 7 long months due to my rotten behavior, and I'm not proud of it. But I completed that inpatient program. I went to an outpatient program. I went to an evening care program. I went to an aftercare program. And I found myself a very, very active Alcoholics Anonymous in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I wasn't doing one thing where you teach people in AA to do it. My butt was in the chairs. I was in meetings every day, but I was picking and choosing while I was doing Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a dangerous position for any newcomer to be in. I'm very lucky I survived that, let me tell you. But, you know, you can pull your crap out of you just for so long, and these old-timers are going to start nailing you one right after the other. God loved me, old-timers in Alcoholics Anonymous. They literally saved my life, and, boy, they are dying off right and left, I got to tell you guys. And they have taught me well, and I'll be eternally grateful. But so a guy with 29 years said, come outside, I want to talk to you. He said, you stay away from the new people. How dare you tell the new people in AA, read the book and they need a sponsor. He said, you're like a typhoid Mary in AA. Everybody dies around for you able to stay sober somehow. He went on to tell me, he said, there's going to be a man from California speaking in Kearney, Nebraska this weekend. His name is Clancy, and this man speaking asked this man if he will sponsor you. He is a master at dealing with jerks like you. And I heard all about Clancy, and I wanted nothing to do with him, period, because I knew I was going to be in bad, bad trouble. And I got to tell you guys that my fears have been justified 8,000 times over. But I told this old timer, I said, who do you think you are? You're going to tell me to be my sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, if you don't get in that car and go this Saturday, I'm going to tell everybody in Lincoln how you stole money from an AA meeting. And I'll guarantee I was in that car going to Kearney, Nebraska. And I paid that money back, too, by the way. I did pay it back. And I will tell you guys from a podium in Kearney, Nebraska, that man literally put the magic of Alcoholics Anonymous in my life. My life has never been the same since that talk. And there's a reason for that. For the first time in my sobriety, I was identifying another alcoholic. And as I understand Alcoholics Anonymous, that's what this thing is all about. I know of no finer speaker in the world than my sponsor. I'm not saying that you need to believe that. It's only important that I believe that. In that talk, I wanted that man for my sponsor. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how God works in my life. I wouldn't ask that man to sponsor me in a million years. Trust me, I wouldn't have asked him. God does me I can't do for myself, apparently. I found myself walk out of that convention before asking me to be my sponsor. And he looked at me and he said, I don't sponsor crazy people like you. And that's a lie anyway. He sponsors people crazier than I ever thought of being. And I thought to myself, why'd he say that to me for? He didn't even know me. Standing in my little white dress on, my little white gloves on, acting like an angel. And he said, Karen, I don't like to sponsor people on long distance basis, but I'm going to do this for you because I don't do it for you, probably go die somewhere. But he said, I'm going to tell you something, little girl, and you better listen to me real good. So I'm going to say it one time only. You're going to call me every day I tell you not to call me every day. You are going to read that book. You're going to sponsor people, become an active volunteer member of Alcoholics Anonymous. You're not going to argue with me, defend your actions to me. You're going to do what I ask you to do. And if you don't want to do that, then get yourself a different sponsor. And you guys, you want to talk about we stood at the turning point. This is a day when my recovery really began, and I said 2 words that I almost fell over when I said them. He didn't tell me to say them. I just said them. I said, yes, sir. I don't tell people, yes, sir, trust me, I don't. And respect's got to start for me somewhere. Might as well start with my sponsor, Alcoholics Anonymous. And one more time, God did for me, I can't do for myself. You know, I went back to Lincoln. I became very, very active in AA in the right way when I was sponsoring a lot of women in that town. I'm not bragging about that. It's not that much fun to sponsor 56 crazy women in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I grew to love those women very, very much, and I'll tell you why. They literally showed me the first 4 years of my sobriety what to do and what not to do in this program. And every one of those women is still sober today, with the exception of one, and she died in a car accident when she was 13 years sober. But she died sober, you guys, and it wasn't because of me. They were active members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and one of the first directions my sponsor gave me, he said, I want you to get that nursing license back. I said, Clancy, they are not going to give me that license back. He said, quit arguing with me, get the State Board of Nursing Nebraska, tell those people you've been sober in AA for a year and a half, you'd like the opportunity to get your nursing license back. And you guys, I knew it wasn't going to work, but I did it anyway. And that's without a doubt the most important thing I can say in this room today. I did what my sponsor asked me to do, whether I thought would work or not. And I tried to tell him, Clancy, you know, you guys, this is way before medical diversion. There was no nursing diversion, medical diversion in those days. You do what I was doing, you lost it, and you were done dealing. So there was no hope out there at all to get that kind of stuff back. But anyway, I went, much to my sheer surprise, I went up there and I asked for my license back. And they said, how many links are you willing to go to? And I had to do a lot, you guys. I had to take crap off people for 2 years that I wouldn't hire to mow my own lawn, you know the truth. I had to keep my mouth shut in the process, too. And one of the happiest days of my life occurred 25 years ago, when one more time I was working in front of the State Board of Nursing Nebraska, and what they told me brought me to my knees for the first time in Alcoholics Anonymous. They said, welcome home, you're fully reinstated as a registered nurse. And as a gift from AA, I don't deserve, by God, I intend to take it. You know, I got a letter from the State Board of Nursing Nebraska about 5 years ago, and they said, thanks for blazing the trail, 2,500 people have followed you. You did so well, we thought we'd just try it with everybody. So I'm so happy to be part of that. I can't begin to tell you guys. But, you know, I came over to visit a couple times. I fell in love with Southern California AA. If you're new in this room today, I want you to know that you are in the mecca of Alcoholics Anonymous in the whole world. This is the best place to be and be sober. And I know that's very, very true because I get the honor of speaking all over the world. And I welcome you now. I hope that you stay. I told Clancy one day, I said, I'll move to LA, live on that crazy Venice Beach. Belong to the Pacific. I want to work at UCLA in the operating room. I mean, 2 of their transplant teams, their heart and liver transplant teams. I want this and I want that. And every single of those things have come true for me. And those are all gifts from me. I don't deserve any of it. By God, I'm taking all of it. You know, people say to me all the time, why do you keep doing it, Karen? Why do you keep doing it? And I know of no greater thing to say to them than our 12th tradition says, long form. So that this to the end, that my great blessings may never spoil me, I may forever live in thankful contemplation of him who presides over us all. And there's more reasons than that for me. You're the ones that walk me when nobody else will walk with me. You held my hand when nobody else will hold my hand. And you told me that you loved me. And I need you as desperate as I need you in 1982. You've taught me how to live. You've taught me how to love. You've taught me how to keep my pants up and all those things. And I don't do those things very well. But I'll tell you the one thing that I do with 200% absolute perfection, that I love this program more than anything in the whole world. And it's truly a story from an alcoholic hell I cannot even describe. I have truly been given, just like our book says, I have truly been given the keys to the kingdom. And I'm going to say one more thing, and I'm going to shut my mouth here right on time. It has been one hell of a walk from Skid Row in Nebraska to where I stand in Los Angeles, California today. I think that but for the grace of God and Alcoholics Anonymous, that I would have missed it all. Thank you for having me, and thank you for my life. Thank you. I'm sorry I did that.
Great.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.